Turn now to global affairs and some looming crises that could unfold over the next 10 years. They are outlined in the new book, The Power of Crisis, and how three threats and our response will change the world. It's published by Simon & Schuster, a division of CBS's parent company. That would be Paramount Global. Author is Ian Bremmer. He is the founder and president of the Eurasia Group and G0 Media. And Ian joins us now. Ian, thank you for being here.
Good morning.
You narrowed it down to three crises, but it seems like there's a new one every day. And the one we're dealing with right now in Buffalo is white supremacy, which you say is a bigger threat than radical Islam in this country. Why? And by the way, our government agrees.
Our government agrees.
Why is it?
The public doesn't agree with that, though. They still see it differently.
Some in the public don't agree.
Yeah.
I mean, why is it so hard, first of all, to get agreement on that question and also to stop it?
Why it's so hard is because it doesn't seem to be a really urgent problem for the average American, because most of the people it's hitting are seriously disenfranchised. I mean, it sort of reminds me of crack cocaine as a crisis back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, we all knew it was a big deal, but it was inner city, and did the people that were in power really care? Was the response going to be performative? It's performative. The global hunger crisis right now is another one of those. It feels to me like climate did 20, 30 years ago before it started hitting everyone.
Right.
Remember, I mean, we all knew the science on climate, but we weren't going to do anything about it until it started hitting California and Italy and Australia. And now we are responding. We truly are. The part of the book is about when the crisis gets big enough, your capacity to make a real difference. And even when the U.S. is still dysfunctional, even when the U.S.-China relationship isn't so good, you actually see that traction, and it's playing out right now.
But I like how you say there on page 22 early in the book, no sources of outrage more deeply embedded in American life than structural racism and determined efforts of some to pretend it does not exist. To paraphrase William Faulkner, institutional racism isn't dead, it isn't even past.
It isn't past.
That's what I'm saying. I think a lot of people don't realize how, I know all the politicians say it, all the elected officials, the FBI directors have said it, both of them, Comey and Christopher Wray, but the American people, I don't feel, still understand how serious this problem is.
I mean, Gayle, when you guys started yesterday in response to Buffalo and I saw you, I'm tired of being angry.
Yes.
And how do you not feel that after decades and decades and decades? Not like Jim Crow was just around the corner. I mean, we elected Obama, did it make a difference? The fact is the United States today is the most politically divided and dysfunctional of the advanced industrial democracies. The dollar is really strong. People want to come to our country still. We've got this great technology. Our military certainly works. We see all of that. And yet, Washington is so divided that we can't get the obvious done. But the funny thing is that my book ultimately ends up still very hopeful, because it says even if we can't fix that, that we still see that a target-rich crisis environment that we're in today is not about curling up in a ball and waiting for the inevitable. It's precisely that those crises force us into action. And frankly, the headlines that we've seen for the last 2 months on Russia, I wish Putin had read an earlier draft of the book, because he didn't think we could respond.
Right.
And it turns out we can.
You mentioned the word divided. And speaking of division, social media comes to mind. As good of a vehicle it can be for information, sometimes it can create and exacerbate some of these issues that we have in this country. And speaking of social media, the misinformation and polarization is a threat on our democracy, like you said. Why so?
Look, when 20 years ago, a little more than I got my PhD, technology actually it helped democracies. It hurt authoritarian states. Remember that cartoon, A Dog's on the Computer? It says on the internet, no one even knows if you're a dog. So you had all these anonymous people that are on there getting information. They're learning more about their societies, and they will bring it down if you don't fix it, which is how the wall came down. It's how we got the colored revolutions. It's how we got the Arab Spring. Today, if you're on the internet, we know if you're a dog. We know exactly what kind of dog you are. We have all that data. It's the data revolution, the surveillance revolution, that empowers a country like China that's able to surveil and lock down their populations. And it doesn't empower a country like the United States. It actually drives more extremism and polarization.
And you think that's the most dangerous crisis we face on the planet?
I think the inability to understand and contain disruptive technologies, whether it's the artificial intelligence that's being pumped into our bloodstream and our kids, or whether it's cyber attacks and offensive capabilities, it's disinformation, it's lethal autonomous drones, it's even quantum computing. When we had nuclear weapons, we said, we've got to contain that. It's too dangerous. And over 75 years, we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
These technologies,
Technology, you can't
we're not
contain it.
even starting to address them. I think that's the most dangerous
They're moving
crisis out
so
there.
quickly. Ian Bremmer, thank you very much. The book is The Power of Crisis, and it's on sale today wherever you buy your books.